Hey, what's up everyone? James here, and today we are back with Autocracy, covering two chapters, Chapter 6 Purge and Chapter 7 Choices. Now let's get right into it because this story gets crazy. So Chapter 6 opens with the Omega Destructors and Zeta Prime himself fitted with Vampire Ribbon units burning Nyan to the ground. Zeta announces, "Dissidents of Nyan, you've been branded traitors to the Autobot regime. This wretched slum will be bled of energon so that Cybertron may thrive. Be not dismayed, your sparks shall serve the greater order. Your future and energon shall live within us." Zeta then drains some nearby citizens of their energon. Meanwhile, at the Acropolis, Orion tells the Autobots it's time to move out, and Hot Rod to evacuate the citizens. When Hot Rod says they're in no condition to evacuate, Orion replies, "You're their leader now. Find a way or they all die." Megatron, watching Zeta's madness from Decepticon HQ, admits he didn't expect this eagerness from Zeta and is interested in seeing how Orion will handle this crisis. Later at the battlefront, Orion comes up with a plan to slow down the Omega Destructors since they have no chance of taking them out. The plan is to lure them into the Rust Narrows and see what damage they can do. Hound will lay down mines, Ironhide will use his Cyclone launcher, Bumblebee will be sniping from a rooftop, and Orion and Prowl will act as bait. Orion orders the Autobots to roll out. Prowl and him quickly grab the attention of one of the Omega Destructors, who fires upon them. The Omega Destructor steps on Hound's mines, and Ironhide and Bumblebee lay down all the firepower they have at the Omega Destructor. Orion asks whether they got him, and Ironhide believes the Omega Destructor isn't getting up after taking that beating. However, when the dust settles, the Autobots see they didn't even lay a scratch on it. Bumblebee points out civilians running by, saying they won't stand a chance, and asks Orion what his orders are. Orion replies, "Fall back. There's nothing more we can do. We can only hope we bought Hot Rod enough time." Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the Acropolis, Hot Rod is in disbelief of the destruction Zeta has brought and realizes he and the evacuees won't make it in time. Slinger reminds him of their contingency plan, which Hot Rod reveals was to wire the entire city of Nyan with phase chargers. When Hot Rod says, "I just never thought it would come to this," Slinger replies, "Better that our people die at our hands than to be drained to serve Zeta." And initially Hot Rod hesitates, but then says, "Primus, forgive me," and regretfully activates the phase chargers. Explosions then occur all across Nyan, and the Omega Destructors fall and burn with the city. Orion and his team get caught in one of the explosions, and Hound points out that the explosion came from one of Hot Rod's phase charges. Orion realizes Zeta had this planned all along, and when he says Hot Rod had no options, out of nowhere Zeta comes crashing down in front of them and says, "Now neither do you." Zeta quickly takes out Orion's team, and he tells Orion, as he told him long ago, it's not about being on the right side, but the side that's going to win. And Orion does his best and charges at Zeta, saying, "You haven't won yet, Prime." And Zeta replies, "Yes, I have," as he takes out Orion with the Vampire Ribbon. Zeta Prime has won. From there, we go to Chapter 7, Choices. And the chapter opens with Zeta standing over a defeated Orion about to deliver the killing blow, saying, "It hurts me you should die in the ashes and wreckage." But suddenly, Zeta Prime is interrupted by Megatron with his army of Decepticons at his back. I have to say, this entrance is so cool. He orders his troops to protect the Autobots and says, "Leave Zeta to me." Zeta, excited to crush Nyan's insurgency and Megatron at the same time, immediately fires his Vampire Ribbon at Megatron. But one of his Decepticon seekers sacrifices himself to protect Megatron. I love that Megatron didn't even move an inch while witnessing all this. Like, this is so cool. He tells Zeta he knows all about his Vampire Ribbon. He throws some nearby civilians at Zeta, causing his Vampire Ribbon to overload. With the Vampire Ribbon no longer a threat, Megatron asks Zeta, "Ready to face me in a fair fight?" Now, not wanting to fight Megatron without his weapon, Zeta turns and flees the battle, cursing Megatron. Megatron calls him a coward and says, "This isn't over. I'll make a long career out of killing primes." Now, you cannot tell me that isn't badass. This was so awesome. Megatron orders his troops to bring the Autobots back to base. Later, at Decepticon HQ, Orion Pax thanks Shockwave for repairing him, never thinking he'd see the day a Decepticon would save his life. Megatron then enters the room, telling Orion they still have great things to achieve together, and mentions they never finished their conversation from Chapter 4. Orion admits to Megatron that he was right about Zeta Prime, and Megatron takes notice of the chasm within Orion's chest and tells him it's time to fill that chasm with a new purpose. Now, don't forget about this observation by Megatron because it will play a significant role later. Megatron makes an excellent point here in his discussion with Orion. He tells Orion his new purpose should be justice. He has seen with his own optics the evil Zeta is capable of and the autocracy that condones it. Nyan was the first to fall, and there's no going back now. When Orion asks, "How can I possibly trust you?" Megatron replies, "Do you even have a choice?" From there, we quickly go to Starscream, telling Orion's team that they're free to go. Ironhide and Thundercracker have a friendly standoff here, and I like this because it's the young, cocky soldier versus the gun-toting veteran. Shockwave enters the room and announces that everything has been discussed and decided, and for the Autobots to follow him. Later, we see Orion and Hot Rod. And Hot Rod is surprised that Orion has agreed to work with Megatron, but Orion tells him that the destruction and death Zeta has caused needs to end. And we then see Hot Rod is like full of regret after having to destroy Nyan. And I love Orion's response to this. He reassures Hot Rod by saying leadership is making the hard choices. The price we pay is carrying guilt, loneliness, and self-doubt. You give it your all, but sometimes it seems like the world just gets darker. You faced an impossible situation and did what you had to do. You had the strength to make a choice, just as I do now. Orion and Megatron have officially joined forces. And that's the end of Autocracy Chapter 6, Purge, and Chapter 7, Choices. Be on the lookout for the next Autocracy video covering 3 chapters. Yeah, you heard it correctly, 3 chapters. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new here. I would greatly appreciate it. Check out my other videos right here. But other than that, have a fantastic day, and always remember every day to go beyond. See you later, Beyonders.